What up, guys? Look, I'm coding so fast that it's indistinguishable from a real coder. I'm going lightning speed. I've learned typing at the fastest rate possible. Huh, that's interesting. I don't know why it's telling me that. This shit was nasty. I really need to learn how to get a big bucket of water next to me. I love water, but only when I start streaming. I will say, probably for like simple HTML sites and stuff like that, Claude is pretty good. No, yeah, but it's loading. I don't pay for Claude or anything because it should be expensive. So I'm kind of like doing it in between. I'm checking out what's gonna come out like the nicest with Claude, and Grok is okay because it's free. Because I ain't paying for that shit. And then Gemini AI Playground, which is kind of nice. I have an idea that got floated across to me. It's not going to be something that I want to like promote as like the most based, cool, original idea ever, because it's not. But I was in talks with someone that is very based and Monero pilled, orange pilled, as I would say, and I was thinking of something kind of cool, like in terms of like processing fees that a lot of people pay, maybe a live update, a live updated site. That tells you like what's the cheapest way, what's the cheapest processing payment. Oh fuck. Processing payment that you can achieve in terms of Monero and what you're gonna like fundamentally do with it. It might work. It might not. I'm gonna test it. I have a site already that accepts HTML, so maybe I'll just park it there on my site. Like, maybe this would be the cheapest option. Monero, like BTC Pay Server, Monero Direct. Visit Lightning Network, Now Payments, Globee, never heard of that, CoinGate, like just different like what are you losing with PayPal, etc. That sounds terrible. The AI that does everything. So maybe this is something that people will like, and then they can visit just like a way maybe to save on money, and then annual savings versus the worst, max fee reduction. Maybe it's something that people would like to get that are running a business where they fundamentally don't know if that like hosting your own, like your own self-hosted version with a service, or if using something like Monero directly or Lightning Network or Now Payments, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to be kind of simple. It would be kind of cool to maybe get it to work with like Onion, like an Onion site, but I need to test it kind of first to see if it like is something. See if like it's a test like anything that would be universally accepted and based. So I'm gonna test on like a site that I have where I know I can drop like HTML, a single HTML file, and it might work. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Pretty based, OpenNode, never heard of it. And you can use, I mean, there's ways to self-host your own node as well. So it's not that it's like impossible. I mean, obviously over a certain amount, like say you only do $250, $85 transactions, monthly revenue $250, average transaction size 85. You can put this to 0. Just put that you do $250. Network fee, say like the average network fee for Monero. The Lightning Network would be the cheapest because Lightning is cheap. Obviously, Monero is the best option because it's going to be, you can do crypto only, traditional only. I could say that allow a Monero only option and add updated add. What would be something that we should add? Allow Monero only option and add option and add okay. I have only so many processes I can do before I'll get exhausted. It's quite interesting. Should be slowing down. Done. Monero only tab, traditional Monero only. Okay, BTC Pay server, Monero Direct, Now Payments would be, the more expensive. Cheapest option, 8 cents per month. Most annual savings versus the worst. 5,000 switching to the best. 99.8% reduction transactions per month. Wow, based. and then it lets you visit to these sites. Seems pretty decent. If my the fuck is going on with my PC? Have I been hacked? Ooh, nothing grinds my gears than something that's going slow. Okay, we're just gonna exit that. Go back here. There we go. It's beautiful. So this looks very clean. I kind of like it. Besides the changing the logo is kind of ugly. It looks weird. Maybe I could figure out how to fix that in with some skill level. I have 0 when it comes to coding. Especially HTML. HTML put me to sleep. It's like writing, to be completely honest. Writing is very boring. Actually, writing's more enjoyable than way more enjoyable than actually what the fuck? Is going on? Just gonna pin that. Yeah, this music be bumping. Alright. I fucks with it. So I would say that maybe this would help people that look at their feet, like they're looking at, like if you only do like say like 2500, you do average transaction size in dollars like $85 per transaction US dollar, and I believe there's options for other denominations, like some simple ones. 5 BT Pay server is going to be cheapest. It's like, I believe it's there is no real network fee, no KYC, open source, self-hosted, XMR, Monero directly, whatever the fee is. Lightning Network. Lightning Network obviously is really cheap, but $2 isn't really that much. You can see it. The worst would be like whatever the fuck this is, Aiden. That sounds expensive. PayPal sounds really, really expensive as well. Stripe, another really big platform, and you could say even perspective-wise, it's why it's important to get away from these centralized platforms is because, again, they can freeze your account for whatever they want. They kind of control like your funds to a certain degree. This is the problem with like PayPal, etc., etc. Because if they don't like you or you do something against maybe like their political ideology or like their ideology in general, they could ban you for whatever reason, and then you lose big chunks of your income. So maybe people just need more and more push to get away from like centralized services, centralized exchanges, especially when it includes financing. Now, like, bang, hello, what up, brother? Now, obviously, I do not have unlimited money with this kind of perspective, but Claude is pretty good for basic HTML, and I would say I gotta try discussing OpenWRT and OpenSense. Yeah, sure. I mean, OpenRT and OpenSense are cool. I just like I tried them. I just don't have a use for them. I use Unify. Unify's been really clean for me because it's a very simple user interface. That's not for everybody. I know some people like open source like Maxis are like, oh, why would you use like a closed source software? Well, it's locally hosted, single glass panel of all the information I need to see, and it's locally hosted. That's all I really care about at the end of it. If it's not open source, if I'm allowed to do local hosted, no license, and I control everything, that's fine. Is it ideal? No. Would it be cool if they were to open source their entire platform? Sure. But as long as I get local control, that's all that matters. There's no cloud. I don't use their cloud key or anything. I host everything on the local level. OpenSense is kind of, I mean, if I had to pick out of both of them, it would be pfSense versus OpenSense. And honestly, pfSense is better than both OpenWRT and OpenSense. But for travel-wise, OpenWRT is my preferred method because I have used it in a travel router where I've taken it with me and that ran OpenWRT as well. Ooh, okay. My dream is to work in network because it's easy. Yeah. I think it has better job security. Networking is super cool. It's probably like my favorite thing to learn. I wouldn't say it's easy. There's definitely complicated networks. Things that took me a long time to. I guess it's easy for some people, but I say there are some things in networking that I don't understand, and I have to like think a little bit harder. But it's definitely like a super. It's probably like my favorite thing to learn about is different like network topologies and like how networks like view data and send it and like handle packets and stuff. That is definitely the most interesting aspect of it. Now, I don't know how many more replies I get from our Lord and almighty known AI. So I'm thinking this looks decent. Not sure. Just that logo right there. Every processor is the cost now. Okay, so let's make sure the link is good. We can kind of test it. BTP server looks good. Let's lightning.network. Is that the word? Yeah. Okay. Let's do now payments. .io. Hello, cat. I think their pricing is very 300 currencies, 5% service fee, 5 minutes dex times, 24 support. Crypto cuts the fees, not your profits. Deposits, fiat fee, processing fees, deposits, off-chain conventions, withdrawals and mass payouts, 0%. That's awesome. Network fees, they were, network fees are always. That's where anything to maintain network security. Learning ACL rules, learning how firewall rules actually work. Routing, like demilitarized zones on most consumer hardware isn't really good, but it does exist. It's just not as, but it's still cool. There is something called, if you want to really learn a lot, I think it's G3 NS net GNS3. You can actually run this in a virtual lab. You really want to understand networking and like network security. This and anything Cisco related. Cisco is really, really, really good. But learning how to do like proper routing and understand that you're not going to protect everything. You just got to protect the most critical components. Like security is like a sliding scale. If everything is locked down and super secure and like impossible to be functioning as a business, you're going to lose a lot of time and money. So there's certain things where you're going to have some leeway or like some way that people can connect and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, so you gotta prepare if A gets compromised, can A reach B? Like your most critical like infrastructure. So like understanding how to do VLANs properly, understanding how to route between VLANs properly, understanding that VLANs can get compromised and it's completely possible. So if it does get compromised, how to handle it, and then documentation, knowing how to document everything. So like how to do an incident response. Like if you have a problem with something and you have like an intrusion, how to set up intrusion IPFS, which is intrusion prevention service, and then IDS, intrusion detection service. Understanding those things are super important. Logging is like the king of everything. I mean, if you see logs and like, is it a false flag? Is it a positive? know how to. I mean, there is like some malice in blocking IP addresses, certain like subset of malicious IP addresses, but that's not really always the best. That's why fail to ban is cool, but there's better systems out there. Like I think Snort is one of them. Snort is a good network tool to understand. Like you can, I think it's free. Um, what is the other one? CrowdSec is really good. It's open source, self-hostable, and it's better than anything that you could get for free. It's the best thing you can get for free, definitely. And then how to make sure your network is segmented. That's uber important. Here. I just wanted to share my thoughts. Mr. Bud Airy, the idiot from Ministry of Communications and Information. Sure. You can share. You can share all the thoughts you want. I'm gonna grab this. Maybe. Okay. Let's put this in a new folder. HTTT LOL. Okay. Okay, let's see what this one looks like. This one looks alright. Swaps index. A green live fee. So $50. I kind of like the other one. This one looks nicer, and it's like way more simple. What was that? JWig? JS Fiddle. What a weird fucking name. Okay. Let's see if I can copy. Looks cool, looks good. How to deploy this? Interesting. Go to netflix.com, export compare file into the page. You'll get a URL instantly. No account needed. To use custom domain, create a new. Ready for your account? GitHub. Okay. Easiest. Most aligned with Marrow ethos. Install IPFS desktop. Import your file. Copy the CDI hash. Your site is now decentralized network. Oh wow. Or pin it with a service like Fleek for a permanent URL. For most business, Netflix Drop is the fastest to start. Cloudflare Page is the best long-term free option. If privacy and decentralized, go with IPS Fleek. I wonder if I can post this on. I could. I could put this on I2P, right? Yeah. Oh my god. I want to tell a story about seeking security, but instead being avoided from commie info. I don't know what that is. You would have to explain that to me. Okay. Okay. Install IPS Tech from IPS Tech. Huh. import your file. Copy the CI hash to your site is now on a decentralized network access. Como info, idiot? I don't know what that is. Fleek.co. I'm learning. Okay. Fleek. Let's see. Net. The fuck? Oh, wow. Interesting. Huh. It takes me straight to Monero's website. Interesting. Welcome to the Drama Net. Run archive box to save Omi's new drama. I don't know who Ohim's new drama is. Okay. If Mr. Buddy Airy is replaced by Mr. Ono, our data will definitely be safe. I don't know who any of these people are. Are these real people even? Okay, interesting. I'm gonna add maybe a domain later. I'm gonna definitely check this out. Huh, interesting. Alright, cool. Oh, 19 requests, 31% errors. Let's just play project configuration. Let's see if we can get into danger zone. Disable that. Delete. back to deploys. Published. Drag and drop to your project folder to deploy new changes. Builds, members, security scorecard. Wonder if it will. No, it won't. Beautiful. Okay, that's cool. Alright, I'm going to go drink some water. Because water good. Let's see if I put it. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna get some water. Huh. Maybe no. Maybe XMR payment saver. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds much cooler. Stop paying 2 to 4% treasury to see what you're actually losing. Cheapest, non custodial, no KYC, PTS, open up. How do I play Portal on Cubes OS? It's crazy. That's funny. Coding roguelike in C++. Solutions and services for end-to-end device lifecycle. It looks like Graphene OS, rumor confirmed. Graphene OS partners with Motorola for their non-pixel hardware. Zero touch, distributed portal, multi-class smart contract. Built-in security, Moto RKP, Moto K Safe, Moto Safe, Graphene OS, Moto Secured. Huh. Wow, breaking news. Interesting. Wow, did nobody chat or like the stream while I was not watching? True. There's like 2 YouTube streams going on, and I'm the first one to like both. Thanks. Where is the shareholder value? BlackRock needs to collect your data. Well, IPFS says that they're gonna do it. So apparently, leak confirms that Graphene OS and Motorola partnership for non-pixel devices. Now, I think I read it got pushed back into. It got pushed back to 2027, which, if this is true, that would be kind of based. BlackRock does need to give me shareholder value. So, a new leak that has seemingly confirmed that we've been expecting for months. Graphene OS is partnering with Motorola for its first non-pixel hardware expansion. A now deleted post on the Graphene OS shared, which appeared to be an internal Motorola presentation side highlighting Graphene OS under the company's security offerings. Although moderators quickly removed the post, screenshots continue to circulate, adding significant weight to the long-running speculation about collaboration between privacy-focused Android OS and the Lenovo-owned smartphone brand. Later, Billy. Thanks for showing up. Solutions and services for end-to-end device lifecycle management. I mean, that would be cool, but for months, Graphene OS has publicly denied rumors of Motorola partnership, even as it teased plans to expand beyond the long-standing Pixel exclusivity. However, the hints have been increasingly difficult to ignore. Back in October 2025, which we reported that Graphene OS was preparing to end its Pixel-only strategy and partner with the new OEM. I don't think it's actually. They said they were going to end its. Oh. So the thing is, Graphene OS actually has stated this before that that they don't pick the Pixel devices because it's the best option. It's the only option that they are given, because other hardware manufacturers and vendors don't follow the baseline security standards that should be implemented in all vendors. They also have stated, I believe, that they don't want to have an endless supply of devices to maintain, because that's time consuming. But they also acknowledge that they're forced to pick the Pixel for obvious reasons, because it's doing the best at its intended job. But they also might not do Motorola. I mean, this could be fake, for all we know. Motorola constantly stood out as the most plausible candidate for subtle social media instructions to a technical alignment and supply chain feasibility. The signs were there. In late January, we detailed why Motorola appeared to be the forerunner of the Graphene OS first non-pixel collaboration. Motorola is expected to formally announce the partnership next month, with MWC 2026 around the corner. The timing would make it a strategic sense. Major OEM partnership with enterprise-focused security announcement are the comment at the Barcelona event. This said, an announcement that did not necessarily meet immediate availability. While the collaboration would be unveiled in 2026, the actual device running Graphene OS on a Motorola hardware may not arrive until 2027. This aligns with the previous indications that the development timelines were longer than initially anticipated. If accurately, the delay would also explain why Graphene OS careful messaging and reluctant to confirm delays prematurely. Well, yeah, no shit. But people are just making, again, speculation. Graphene OS has historically maintained tight integration with Google Pixel hardware, citing that security features like the Titan M chips, verified boot implementation, and firmware transparency as critical requirements. Expanding to non-pixel hardware represents a major strategic shift. Motorola, meanwhile, has been investing heavily in enterprise mobility, device lifecycle management, and security solutions. Integrating Graphene OS into their portfolio would give the company a strong privacy-focused differentiation in both consumer and enterprise segmentation. For now, neither Motorola nor Graphene OS has officially acknowledged the leak, but with an internal presentation slide, Surface and Predator reporting already pointing to the direction of the partnership, appears increasingly inevitable. If an announcement does arrive at MWC 2026, it would mark the beginning of a new chapter for Graphene OS beyond Pixel ecosystem. This would be cool because Motorola has some very inexpensive hardware that could possibly be given to the masses. I wouldn't drop the Pixel. Honestly, I wouldn't drop my Pixel until its end of life, or I am forced to pick another device anyways. So if Graphene OS picked a device like Lenovo, Motorola, if they picked a device like Motorola, I think that would be good, a net positive for people that want maybe an affordable device. Maybe, hopefully, it is within the budget range of said Pixel devices. That'd be great. For people, and maybe there's maybe less restrictions. I don't know. Some people say that it's impossible or expensive to get Pixels in their country, so maybe this would solve it. That would be great in like the long term, but in reality, we don't know if this is even true, because if it is, based and super cool. If not, nothing but anger and sadness. And uncool. Uh-oh. Oopsies on that one. Yes, there we go. Beautiful. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Back to operational security mistakes. Mm, let's look at it. Let's look at consequences of bad OPSEC. This is always a fun one. I'm vibe coding. I'm vibing. There we go. Okay, my brain's kicking. It's tickled. You could say. maybe this will work out. Okay. Okay. Based. Thank you. I'm glad that RAM prices are going through the roof so I can think of this. That's the best part. Why learn to code when you can use a housing payment amount of RAM to do said thing? Why learn? Okay, so the OPSEC Bible is again a great place to start. Pretty much being forced into being an informant. If you fuck up, you might be forced to becoming an informant and cooperate with the adversary to avoid larger sentences. But essentially, law enforcement is offloading the risk onto you. You serve as cannon folder for them. Yeah, this is true. So the point is, law enforcement will lie to you. They will make you an informant, and they will not care that you get murdered in a jail cell because you betrayed the oath that you had to the people for the oath of the people that should have the oath to protect you but don't protect you. Law enforcement fucks up all the time. And this is why I don't understand why people don't fucking have a slight hatred towards them, where they make lots of oopsie daisies in between, cost people their lives, their livelihood. I understand. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. This is true, but when the crime is sitting in front of you and it's like, you got 300 years in prison, or we can give you 10 years in prison if you snitch on this person. Respectfully, I understand why most people, if not all, would be like, well, that sounds pretty enticing. I can go 10 years without, getting my balls fondled and maybe just sitting there eating ramen every day and, not get stabbed. But 300 years? That sounds crazy. So I'm going to pick the 10 years. Most average freedom enjoyer and person hater. So beyond the law enforcement part of your OPSEC, having somewhat of a strict OPSEC guideline allows you to essentially look into the worst case possible scenario and maybe rethink your decision making when you're handing out said email or XYZ. XYZ counterpart, where it's like, who do I trust? What should I give them? What kind of information should I give out? And again, I should really get a water cup. So, and these things aren't to really make people think that they need the most extreme. Once you find out what the extreme is, you can kind of trickle down like a waterfall and find out where you lie in the threat model and what your threat model is and how to how do you make it much more enticing, if that makes sense. How do you make it more based, as I would say? And like, you're like, well, I'm at this point in life, and now I'm going to be more private about this versus this versus this. Okay, beautiful. What's going on? What's up, Jay? Vibe coding, man. You know, late into the night. And just talking about Friday night. No one's on. Yeah, of course. I also don't post when I'm going live. I think that's my. If I were to do it more in advance, I think people would hop on more. I'm very laxed on on telling what people I'm doing. Let's see. Friday night. That's okay. We're going to be talking about how you could become accidentally a federal agent in an investigation if you have bad OPSEC and if you commit crimes. Whether it's one user or 50 people watching internet services or group services in their community's copy pasta. I do tea. I appreciate everyone that joins. I don't see any coding. I already vibe coded. I will show the site though. Got to be careful about that bandwidth. I did something very simple. So all it is just a simple website for anyone that wants to see your true monthly cost and fees and hosting combined. Like, say you have a monthly revenue. I love that there's 2 streams on YouTube. That makes me super locked in. And I think I fucked up somewhere, so I have to fix that later. Say your monthly revenue is $500 and your average transaction size in dollars is, say, like $10. Your current display is going to be US dollar. The network fee, let's say it's 8 cents at the highest cost. You're using no hosting. You're just trying to get the average cost, and it reads both chats. Wow, based. You're using no hosting. You're just using like a like Change Now or something. BT Pay server would be the cheapest option. Now, if you obviously, if this is being managed for you for free, but say that doesn't really, it's not really there. Say someone is doing like a cost, like say it's 15 a month, like Lenovo. BT State Pay Server is always going to be the cheapest because they don't really charge any fees, 0% platform fees. And then say the network fee of Monero is that 15 cents, you're spending $15.80. But say you're using something like Now Payments, where they do a 5% transaction fee plus $15 hosting, that's $17.50 that you would be paying every single month. Lightning Network would be another cheap option. You could do Monero crypto only, Monero only, and then traditional. Some of these traditionals cost a lot of money. $147 for Aiden. I don't know what the fuck that is. PayPal is super expensive, plus their 3% fees and their 50-cent tax and $15 hosting fee. Say you have to host. You're not obviously hosting on there because these are hosted for you. We'll have to wait before I can buy a Pixel. Why is that? Is it because of the money? Because that's understandable. If you were here 5 minutes ago, Motorola might be the one. So you can have a cheap Motorola and a secure Graphene OS, even though it's still speculation. The Pixel is probably the best option, but if they do have a partner and it does end up being Motorola and it's 2027, that'd be very cool. I guess I could. Oh, and then there's also like DEX and swaps as well, so you can find out. Say you trade, 500 USDs, comment from XMR to BTC. This is a very cheap, the cheapest option. Curve Finance, DYDX, 1-inch Osmosis, Trader, and then you can also just visit directly to their site. And there we go. It's going to give you the cheapest options possible as well. And then you also have hosting. This could be just all the way down to your annual budget is $500. Cloudflare Pages is going to be obviously the cheapest. Netflix, Netfly, Google Cloud Run, free. Then your Vulture Cloud, $250 a month. 1984, privacy suspecting. Iceland accepts Monero. It just gives you a lot of different options on what it offers and what you can expect to get out of it. And maybe I can do some tweaking down the road after I get some feedback on what people think of it, etc., etc. This is kind of my way of giving back to based Monero enjoyers, and maybe there is a use for it. Maybe there isn't. Maybe I'll just sit there until the end of time for free. I did think about taking this and putting it on a Onion site. On I2P as well, to be able to host so that people can go to it and see it in an intranet kind of way, or maybe hosting it on an Onion site where people that want to visit via Tor, that is another option as well. That would be completely free for me to not pay for any hosting. Two, I could just host it via Tor. Or I might find a way to put it on my blog, but it seems like credit. Their credit system is kind of interesting. It doesn't seem like Netflix is super expensive, so I'll probably stick with them until I see maybe too much influx of cost, or if it starts actually costing me like a ton of money, etc. etc. I'll keep them until then. I thought about putting them on the Interplanetary File System as well, but I think that's a little too obscure for people to find. But maybe I will mirror it once I have kind of like a simple, solid product, and I can just take it and blast it on IPFS so other people can see it. But it'll have your DEX, your swaps, and your hosting. Crypto only, Monero only, traditional only. Same thing with hosting. Privacy first, accepts XMR, free tier, Cloud VPS, and then DEX, XMR swaps, even DEX, aggregators, atomic swaps. Kind of like all your simple options. And it's a static HTML file as well. So it's very simple. Try to make it very based and secure. And I need to get some water. All right. And I'd be trying to I would be interested in see what people would like as well. All right. Being forced into becoming an informant. Today we'll explore how poor OPSEC can lead to becoming an informant for the police and what are the consequences it can be. As you're probably already aware, bad OPSEC can land you in prison and impact your life in numerous ways. But before that you can even reach that point, there are many steps along the way, such as police interviews, trials, where you might be considered doing things you've never intended to do. Let's dive into what it means to be an informant and what that really entails. What is an informant? If you look for the definition of informant available online, we get something like an informant is the context of police work, a person who provides information about criminal activities in law enforcement, often in exchange for leniency or other benefits. These informants can be crucial investigations, particularly in cases involving drugs or organized crime. As you can see, informants are useful tools for the police services to reduce the amount of work needed to close cases. That's exactly why they rely so heavily on informants, and they'll even go to great lengths to get them. This can mean lying, using violence, or even forcing people to cooperate in order to make jobs easier. Police are particularly skilled at bending or outright breaking the law, and they won't hesitate to do so if you help them achieve their goals. And this is pretty obvious too. Tons of law enforcement lie, and it's not really illegal. I mean, I don't think it's even illegal for them to get a confession out of you. I think there's been plenty of cases where policemen have lied and nothing happens to them. If you look at the law, it says, can law enforcement lie to you during an interview? They most certainly can and often do. Therefore, deeper questioning to explore. The U.S. Supreme Court allows the police to use deceptive techniques lying during a criminal investigation. However, there are limits. Police cannot use these powers, psychological ploy, to coerce an innocent person to confessing a crime they did not commit. That's kind of a joke, but because it has happened where people get false allegations toward them. Furthermore, it is unlawful if a statement is obtained from a suspect in a way that violates the legal rights heightened below. Statements made due to a suspect's psychological mistreatment with the threats or false assurance, confessions elicited without the following established rules and principles, misrepresenting a suspect's legal rights. Obviously other stuff. Why does law enforcement lie during an interview? Defense attorneys often see cases where innocent and guilty people are pursued to confess to heavy-handed police interrogation techniques. After all, police interview is designed to produce a confession, such as attending offers may use psychological tactics, such as lying as meaning make you feel at ease during the interview, etc., etc. What's going on, brother? So this happens quite often. What most cops get banned for. In 44 states, U.S. Today obtained records from more than 30,000 law enforcement officers who lost their certification. In about one-third cases, states would not provide the specific reason. Here's the breakdown reason of the document case. Drugs and alcohol, 4,000. That's crazy. That's not crazy, actually. Assault and violence, that's definitely true. Remember, if he's a cop, he beats his wife. Other, what's other? Dishonesty, 2,777. Theft, probably. Misconduct with prisoners, that's probably true. Sexual misconduct, that's definitely true. And official misconduct. Very unbased and uncool and not fun way of using my taxpayer dollars when I could be using that extra money to buy an AK-47. But I have to hand it over to these fucking retards that sit there and make sometimes upwards of $100,000+ a year, by the way, only to fuck around and never find out. Only to fuck around and get paid leave and then move to a different precinct where they make more money and fuck around more, and the cycle continues. But what does informant mean of other facing legal issues? To them, an informant is an enemy. If you're involved in illegal activities, you know someone is in, and you know someone who's an informant, you'll have to deal with it. Informants are often labeled as rats, people who snitch to the police. They're generally seen as untrustworthy, and in reality, informants are snitching, which is why they can't be trusted. So basically, informants are criminals that are hated by other criminals and by the law enforcement, technically. They just love them because they get to do their dirty work for them. That doesn't mean they enjoy them. They are criminals as well. Criminals helping. So which criminal are we talking about? Once in custody, a police officer informs you that you are facing up to 30 years in prison. You're going to butt-pounding jail. Real butt-pounding jail. Have you ever seen the Boondocks, guys? That's essentially what will happen. Terrifying, right? But they offer you a deal. If you cooperate and provide details information about your two partners and the roles in running the site, your sentence could be reduced to 10 years or less. Sound better? Huh? Based, you might say? I can't wait till we get brain-rotted Gen Z in law enforcement. They're like, hey, did you guys know that you committed crime? How would you like to get a based sentence and not see the inside of jail cell where you're going to get your balls skibbity toilet? Sounds good? There will be no TikTok brain rot where you're going, buddy. That's going to be kind of like the dystopian future that I want to live in, where I have my lawyer using super cool slang from 5 to 10 years ago. Yo, chess.com makes $100 million in revenue? That's crazy. Did not know that. confidential informant. Frightened by the process of spending half your life behind bars and not being inclined to somebody, and not being someone inclined toward confrontation, you decide to cooperate. You become an informant. To do so, you explain in detail what your partners did, how they operate, and hand over any impersonal information that you have on them. An individual who supplies information on the confidential basis, understanding that his identity will not be made known, should be used for the maximum benefit of the organization, for not just for one officer. At least 2 individuals from the law enforcement agency should know the identity of the informant, not to steal another man's informant. Wow. No honor among thieves, I guess. As you can see, the rules are laid out early. You now become a tool, effectively the property of a few police officers. Congratulations, you just sold yourself. So what happens next? You'll start by handing over information on your 2 partners, hoping it'll be enough to reduce your sentence, but it won't stop there. The police will want more. They'll begin asking details about the user of your platform as well, and since they hold all the power, what gets communicated to the judge in your corporation, you'll be forced to comply whether you like it or not. Most informants are criminals, reliable, say what they are told, jailhouse informants. SC has rules that police cannot deliberately inflict incriminating statements from indicted defendants without an attorney. If cellmates without prior police contact offer informant to the police, it can be used in court. Police defend the use of informant as necessary evil. Interesting. As you can see, you can become an informant both inside and outside of jail. And guess what? You will be. So you snitch to the police and go to trial. Your partners are sentenced to 30 years in prison while you only get 10. If they're not completely naive, they'll know you collaborated, and now they're angry with you. Since you cooperated, you're sent to a different prison for protection, but it's clear that you're being isolated and not everyone sees this as protection. Here are multiple scenarios what can happen. Once you're in prison, your former partners will now seek revenge, offer money to gang to find you and kill you. With gangs spread throughout the prison system, it would take long for them to locate you. That's true. Within a month, the gang members in your new facility track you down. They'll force someone to carry out a violent act of killing you. Despite being isolated in a different prison, the so-called protection was nothing more than an illusion. At the end, you're dead. Kind of like I would say, you just delayed you getting murdered. You're getting murdered, most likely. Unless you get very, very lucky, and they just don't. Maybe you get super lucky and just don't see an ounce of prison, or you pay yourself out of it with your butt, or maybe some packs of ramen. Not entirely sure. Never been to prison, so for the prison people that will see this, let me know below. And thank you for the engagement. The rise in deaths from drug and alcohol intoxication since 2001 has dramatically outpaced the rise in deaths from any other cause. Once in prison, you're placed in solitary confinement under the guise of protection. Yes, it keeps you safe from gangs that may be looking to kill you, but it also condemns you to 10 years of pure legal torture. Your body and mind becomes your worst enemy. If you're strong enough, you will risk the urge to end it all, but you'll never leave the same person that you walked out. Your mind is now the prison. The isolation will change you, and you will just survive. Yeah, my general view of solitary confinement is that it should be just not even allowed. It's quite cruel and unusual in most cases. I've heard horror stories of solitary confinement. It's generally non-productive at all. Just take the worst of the worst and just put them in prison and let them rot there forever. And then the super worst, we all know what you're talking. You know what I'm saying. The unchangeable worst. Just do what nature intended. Have a large rock fall on their head, or whatever. Let nature take care of it. Actually, maybe throw them into the ocean and let them fight the jellyfish or something. You decide. It's very, the kind of people I'm talking about. Those people. The people that unanimously people don't like. So, if you refuse, they'll threaten you with more or you to a less secure facility, potentially on where your former partners are housed. And even though the so-called protection is just an illusion, the fear of violence around you is enough to force you to cooperate. You'll comply because the environment is scary, and you're worried that you're going to get stabbed in your balls until you bleed out and die. Percentage of substance prisoners sentenced under federal jurisdiction in the United States by the state level. There will also be no cool cats. Jeffrey? Yeah. there'll be no cool cats inside prison. So that would be another reason to stay out of doing crime and stay out of doing prison. Yes, you do not want to Jeffrey yourself, as I would say. Let's see. Okay. And other prisoners catch wind that you snitch, your life will be in danger. It won't take long before you're dead. Whether you're part of a gang or not, in prison, being labeled as an informant is a death sentence. The fear of being marked as a traitor is so strong that it overrides the allegiance protections. Poor people are the majority of the people in that do crimes to make ends meet. Yeah, there is an economic push for people to do crimes. If you look how some of these gangs or kind of like no-go zones in the suburbs of like most cities, when you look at it, their view of society, most of the time they commit crimes. And they say self-contained. That's why they say, we don't call the police around here, we are the police. A lot of these, I used to read a lot of articles when Vice was in a pile of shit, and a few other really good journalists that also weren't a pile of shit that have infiltrated like these gang. I used to watch a lot of gang stuff actually, just in general, because it's a very interesting subculture of society. A lot of them are very anti-government because of they're doing illegal crimes, but they're also very sovereign in a sense of a way. Most of them will generally trade and barter in between their community for other things that they wouldn't be able to afford normally with money. Most of the time, they do not call the police because if you fuck around, you find out. They're kind of like gangs are kind of like Pokemon gyms if you think about it. They're divided by colors, and they have the evil team Rocket, aka the police. And they have the super based, awesome medical people that are like Professor Oak, aka drug dealers or whatever. I would say that gangs are very closer to Pokemon reality than actually anywhere else in society. Even some of like the most notorious gangs definitely survive mainly for the simple fact that they do not like to participate probably in like normal society, and they really don't have a choice. So they continue to flood the I couldn't join a gang. Yeah, of course. I mean, it just doesn't sound fun. Most of them probably hate each other less than they hate the government and law enforcement, but because drugs are illegal, it actually enforces more gang activity. If you were to legalize it, it would dry up some of their biggest illegal activities in general, and maybe it would kill that perspective, and they would have to go to other ventures like illegal firearms or prostitution or selling drugs on maybe the dark net that you can't get to places where it's still legal, etc., etc. I should introduce gangs and YNs to the internet and show them how to sell drugs online, like the Silk Road, where it would be based. I'm just kidding. That is a joke. I would never do that. This is purely satirical. But I would say that it would be probably beneficial to legalize drugs, because then they would lose a giant fat stack of money that they couldn't use because people can go down to Walmart and buy fent for smaller denominations of dollars, and that's how I look at it. They would just obviously go to other illegal activities, but it would reduce one of the biggest drawing factors of it. I mean, it's economics 101. Milton Friedman would have loved fent. I swear. New coin just dropped. Based. That's why I say the internet is the funnest place to learn stuff. I couldn't join it, but law enforcement lose funding. Oh no! I wasn't chatting because I was locked in on Cube Open based Tetris and got a new high score of. This is virgin mentality. Base though. This is I don't have a wife mentality. We are going to solve homelessness $24 billion later and nothing has been done. Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, a lot of things would solve homeless problems, but well, first, building more housing. I think the U.S. hasn't built enough housing. I think that's universally been one of the most accepted things. We haven't built more affordable housing. I think that would be step one. Build more housing, and that would make the housing supply shorter, and that would make housing more affordable. And then more affordable home ownership increases more spending money. More spending money increases the economy. I'm being very, very oversimplifying. I'm oversimplifying it, but that would be one of the best starts. This is unanimously. Everyone's like deport all the illegal people. Have Zillow and BlackRock stop buying up housing. We haven't built the amount of housing. But come on, 24 billion? Yeah, there's probably a waste of funding dollars. Like I said, the money isn't the problem. You can have an infinite amount of money and it could not solve the issue. The issue is lack of affordability when it comes to the housing. And if you build a system where people have a place to sleep, they become more productive because they have a place to go to, and then they go from having a productive place to go to, they have a productive job, and that productive job ends up making more money. You have more money to spend, so you're going to eventually sell your house for a bigger house, and then the cycle continues. Another problem is people are hanging on to their housing too longer. Older people are living longer. Prior to, I believe, back in like the 1950s and like between the 1900s and the 2000s, people used to buy a house. They would live in it for a set period of time. They would get very, very old. They would then sell said house because they no longer have a family because their kids moved out, and they would downsize to a smaller house or a condo or go into a retirement home. That's not happening. People are literally sitting in their mansions when they have two people. They have no more fucking kids, and this is causing a part of the shortage. On top of the fact that we're living longer and people aren't selling their houses, like their medium to smaller houses, for even smaller like houses, we are not building enough houses. So we're not building enough, and people are living too long. That's a part of the problem. Not that people are living too long is the main part of it, but it is a part of it. I don't think that we need population control. The average person stays in their house 5 years. Yeah, they stay in their house for 5 years, but that doesn't mean that they sell it. They could be renting it out and sitting on it, and it's causing a vacancy issue because the rent is too high. And even if they stay in their house for an average of 5 years, let's be like charitable, they could also just keep it. Doesn't mean that they're selling it. When you look at the economic data, the average person is still not like the average boomer and average old person aren't selling their houses. You can just anecdotally you can talk to people, but you can look at the historical data. People are selling their house at a less rate because they're unaffordable. Because again, we have a housing shortage, and everyone complains about interest rates, but interest rates mean nothing. 1980s had one of the highest interest rates. You know what had the lowest tax rate? The 1900s. The productivity between people making enough money and the work that we're doing has obviously curved. I mean, this is universally accepted that people we're very, very, very productive, but our dollar cost for production average is at its lowest in its lowest form. And then the housing part is the fact that we're not building enough houses, and people are living longer, so they're not selling their house. Just because people don't stay in their house doesn't mean that they're selling it. Just because people stay in their house for 5 years doesn't mean that they sell their house. They could be literally renting it. That's a very common thing to do. They could be renting it. They could be doing the Airbnb. They could be doing house hacking. And then boomers, I think boomers are like not even selling their house. Like, just go to go to your friends' grandparents and see what fucking house they're in. They're in like a mansion always. Everyone's grandparents have a mansion, and you're like, why the fuck does grandma have this? Fucking $250,000 house with 18 bedrooms still, for no reason. I think there's some very simple solutions we could do. Again, create more housing, maybe some YIBI, in my backyard, do some condensed housing, make it affordable. I know people don't like the idea of gentrification, but they could do some form of. I mean, gentrification is generally a good thing, and when you actually think about it, you get better roads, you get better opportunities because more businesses want to move into your neighborhood. It sounds like it's an evil thing, but in reality, it's not. Yeah, being poor sucks. Actually, I think being middle class is worse. It's where you make too much money, so you can't take advantage of any like state programs, and you don't make enough that you can get out of it. You're kind of like in the worst, like middle ground. Like when you make too much for any state service, and you don't make just enough to get out of a really big pickle. I think being quote unquote, I know people say the middle class doesn't exist anymore, but it definitely does. It's very thin. I just realized it's Friday night. Woohoo! Depressing. Yeah, it does suck. I mean, not having money sucks. I disagree with the premise that more money, more problems, or money doesn't make people happy. That's just retarded. That's just like people that are either too privileged to understand that money is objectively a very good thing to have. And I've never heard a homeless person or a broke person say, I want less. You know what I mean? And I've actually unironically listened to people in real life that says, actually, what's wrong with being homeless? I don't see them complaining. That's retarded. Like, it's dumb to think that, like, people living it doesn't matter what your state is. Being homeless sucks. Not having a place to shower and shit and eat is not a fun life to live. And then the white people that are, and like, very crazy, stupid Nepo babies that are like sitting in a $80,000 like Sprinter van that are like, I'm van lifing. I'm van lifing. They're just doing expensive homeless because they just got out of college, and they're like, instead of me doing a down payment on a house, I'm gonna build $100,000 moving house. Got my CDL and I live in a truck. Oh, get my you got your CDL and. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with people living in a van to be efficient and make good money and live on the road. But it's like the Nepo babies that like annoy me. They're like, guys, I know I could afford a house, but I'm gonna like totally like buy this $80,000 Sprinter van and live out of it and spend like $8,000 a month on like gas and everything. We're so quirky. Van life is not homeless, it's houseless. It's expensive houselessness. And I used to watch a really famous van lifer that would just dunk on van life people, and he even says it's fucking retarded. He was really funny, and then he said something really fucked up and he got canceled. But beyond that point, he made a very extreme point that a lot of these people are just Nepo babies with money. That buy like they're like do the Sprinter van, or like you break down their expenses and they're fucking insane. Not Bob is a van lifer. I love Not Bob. Are you talking about RV Bob? RV Bob is different. RV Bob has been doing it since like the 90s, and that motherfucker will stay in like a Toyota Sienta or something like shit. He'll stay in like a fucking like the craziest like small camper thing, and he stays on like campgrounds like a normal person. RV Bob is hilarious. He's been on YouTube forever. He probably at this point has enough money for fucking like 8 houses. I mean, the guy's been like van lifing forever. I think who was it? What's his name? Switch to Linux. That guy. Not Bob from I2P. That's probably the same. It's probably the same person. Switch to Linux. Switch to Linux lived in a van or something like that. I don't know if he still does, but I can't watch him anymore. He's too schizophrenic for me. Switch to Linux is like the Lunduke of, but like major, like super Christian, and he likes. I think he hates snaps or something like. I can't remember what made me go like. I'm like I can't watch this guy anymore. But it was really funny. Then there was, what was it? Desolator Magic. I used to watch. Never join the military reserve. It's a bad idea when they will make you homeless. Yeah, because they'll pump you full of untested CIA drugs, and then you go schizophrenic, and you're like, my girlfriend's not real, guys. Don't forget the one domestic violence case that you get once a year. It's I think it's one of those I think it's just one of those things that I think if you can do it smart and it actually saves you money and you look for long term like place to stay, it's a smart thing to do. Like if you like move out at like 18 or something like that, and we are famous for being homeless. Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of strange because like VA loans are like the cheapest loans you can get. You pretty much get guaranteed money because it's the government. Speaking of IT, my Eve site, Billy Mays Gaming, should now be temporarily live, but tunnels, wow. But it built tunnels, wow, based. Let's see if Billy Gaming.I2P is alive and well, or did he lie? It is kind of interesting that vets are like notoriously homeless. %, baby. Let's see if your sites that's why I love I2P. I2P based. Open based. Check your service tunnels. You have no inbound. Huh. Oh, interesting. My bad. I just looked up what the median is. Like the home ownership in the U.S., it's like 12 to 15 years, with 40% of owners are staying in their home, 6 to 10. No, you're good. It used to be very common for people to like swap out houses and like sell them. It's like 12 to 15. The smart, so surprisingly, back up. I'm going to back up for a second. Surprisingly, you should move up in houses every like 2 to 3 years because of how the tax system works with home ownership. There's ways you can write off a lot of the gate where you don't have to pay a lot of taxes when you sell a house. So if you bought a house at $100,000 and in 2 years your house is worth $200,000, and after all the fees and everything, let's say you pocketed $40K, you in your new house is like $140K. Let's say you pocket $140K after everything. Say it doubles, triples, or whatever. What works for me is when I have no inbound is restarting the service tunnel. Say you have a house that you bought for $100,000. Say in a year it clears $100 to $250,000. In a couple years, now it's worth $250K. Let's just do a hypothetical. And then after you pay back your loan, your fees and everything, you're left with $150,000. And then you just cash out your next house, and you keep doing that until you accumulate so much more money and equity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You eventually can just keep upscaling your house until the end of time. But people aren't really doing that anymore, especially like the older people. Like when you go and like look at it, they're staying in their house longer. Like people are keeping their houses at the same size. If I could leave America to own a home, I would. I thought. I mean, I'm pretty sure VA loans are the best. They're just very strict. They're very very strict. What works for me when I have no inbound is restarting the service tunnels in the. Oh, interesting. I had no problem with. Yeah, not Bob is still working. That's the crazy part. Firewalled. I mean, there's probably cheap housing in like other countries where it's like very obtainable to get housing. Military wise, I don't know. That's a good question. I thought a VA loan would be the best if you are ex-military. But if you minus like the sell and like recoup and like get your money, etc., and like all the other real estate methods, I should start seeding in NetBSD to install files. You should to help decentralize the network. Besides all that, like on like just a pure OpenBSD, I'm tired. Fair. You have to have good credit, and it is not good. It is not that good. They won't. That's not true. You can have lows of 500 in America. You just have to have a 10% down payment. Everyone has misconceptions how you can getting a house is actually super easy. You just got to be very transparent. You can definitely get a house in America with a 500 credit score. You're just gonna have a fat ass down payment. Yeah, FHA loan. FHA loan is 3.5%. There's government loans to do down payment assistance if you don't have money. You have VA loans. VA loans are just stricter because it's a government loan, so they want to make sure you don't fucking die because they want their money back. Some payment assistant programs do require you to have a decent credit score of like a 640 and above, but not every state. It depends on your state. Some require a 650, some will require a 580, some require a 400. Not 400. 550, but you can get a loan as low as like 500. This is like universal. Now there are going to be banks that are going to just say outright no to you, absolutely. But you need to work with special lenders that work with veterans or work with people that have shit credit. They might even be like, if your credit doesn't pass, they're like, all right, we'll work on your credit, and then we'll see you within a year, and then we'll help you like get it there. I mean. I'm not saying getting a house is financially the easiest thing, but the credit thing is a lot of people fear. You just got to check your local and state, and there's also a rule, like there's states with rural options, like if it's a rural area, like and there's no, like it's like less housing development, like say there's like 4 or 5 houses in the area, and one of them for sale, they might even give you a fatter down payment assistant or this or that or this. I mean, just check your state local funding and resources that you have. It's definitely out there. I think everyone thinks getting a house is the most impossible thing, but it's not. There's tons of people that get houses that probably most of the time lenders only care about one thing, a couple things. Are you making in Ohio? The average mortgage is around $1,800 with a mortgage and insurance, property tax. I think that means you need to make something like 60 to 80K a year to live. Average life. Ohio is cheap. That's not true. It depends. You wouldn't need 60 to 80K a year. I personally know people that make less than that, make less than that, way less than that. They get a mortgage at like, you can get a house for like 100K. If you get a house at 100K with even like a 30% conventional loan, your max at looking at like $1,000. It's cool to look at the average, but there's no way that looking at the average is going to be always crazy because you're going to be looking at the metropolitan areas. There's definitely cities that you can do it. I mean, you can do like mortgage calculators. You can do a 30-year loan with, property tax is going to fluctuate no matter where you go. But your income, so FHA loans, if FHA loans don't have an income requirement, they want to make sure your DTE, which is like your debt to income ratio, is very low, and your property tax can be like realistically kind of expensive depending on like the county and city you live in. That's whatever. But I've seen mortgages way below that. I know people with very expensive houses that have mortgages not even close to $1,800. It just depends on the length of the loan and like a million other factors. I just say plug your state in, see what county is the cheapest. What can you get away with a 30-year FHA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even 1,800 would be crazy. Very, very. It would suck. But say let's give you the benefit of the doubt. Then you, in that scenario, you buy a duplex for about 180,000. Let's say 180,000 at a 30-year loan with a 6% interest. Let's say you get a duplex for 180,000. I'm not saying you have to do this. Like, you get one for 180,000. Your payments on that on a 30-year loan, honestly, with like just random property tax in my head, et cetera, like say it equals to about $2,000 with the current interest rate. You would just take the California 80K a year is considered low income. Well, yeah, that's because California has a ton of there's a lot of things that are expensive. You can definitely live on 80K a year in fucking California. You just got to pick a different city. There's going to be expensive cities and non-expensive cities. This isn't crazy, guys. But say you get a $2,000, you would go buy a duplex or a multi-unit house. That's $2,000, and you rent out the other half. I'm not saying you have to be or get a roommate and go in half on it, $1,000 each. Write up a contract, $1,000 each, and then when it appreciates, sell it. Or have them pay your mortgage. Be that guy. No, who cares? I mean, whatever. They're paying $1,000. You're paying $1,000. Yeah, you own it at the end of it, but it reduces your rent. Then you get a fourplex. Say the fourplex costs $200,000, etc. I know you're right. That's the point. Pittsburgh and Cleveland, you could get away with something less than $1,800. I don't think you need 60, 80K though, like to live average life. I know people that make less. I mean, they're okay. But say you get say hypothetically, even if you get like a mortgage for $1,500 or $1,400 or $1,000 or $900 or $800, whatever, you could definitely get a multi-tenant or like multi-unit house. This is like very common, and just have other people fill it and then pay your portion of your rent, etc. But being a landlord is I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's going to exist in society, and there is some place for it to like a certain extent. Not everybody wants to own a house. Though I would say you could go as far as doing the multi-tenant unit and then just finding a group of people that you trust, signing up a contract, buying it together, and then when it appreciates enough, sell off the house and then split it, and then go get your own house and rinse and repeat, however you want to look at it. But I know people that live in California that make way less than 80K a year, and they're fine. They just know it's expensive. I mean, you just live in a less expensive fucking city. Anytime you're going to live in a major city, it's going to be expensive. there's tons of expensive cities throughout the United States that people don't even think about, and you're like, damn, why is Arkansas this expensive? Like shit like that. But then there's cheap. I mean, I think the cheapest state is right now Missouri. But who the fuck wants to live in Missouri? Literally. If hypothetically the government forces computer manufacturers to manufacture computers where you can't disable secure boot, so you can't bypass the OS age verification by booting into an OS that does not have age verification, is there a way to get around this? Hypothetical. I've been speculating if, for example, Debian becomes a state-approved OS and accepted by Secure Boot, the tails which derives from Debian should also get accepted by Secure Boot if it uses the same kernel, right? Theoretically, yeah, but the problem with this is Linux is free and open source, and it fundamentally cannot be targeted for something like this because they would first have to make it impossible to install and to obtain. That's two of the things. Linux is distributed, and because it's a distribution and it's bound by, I mean, first off, Linux is a kernel, so let's take that at its own thing. It's not an operating system. And then let's go even further. They would really have to attack GNU, because it's what makes it a complete operating system. I mean, they would have to target server infrastructure. They would have to target everything that falls under the guides of a operating system, correct? So even if, let's say, hypothetically, they say Linux has to meet these standards, GNU/Linux has to meet these standards, they would have to find a way. They would first have to contact Linus Torvald and be like, you have to do boot verification. He's going to be like, okay. And then somebody's going to fork it before it's even an option, and then they're just going to keep maintaining it from then. Like, you can't really govern something as free as Linux. What about Alpine Linux? Alpine Way, Linux, APK, BusyBox, Musil, no GNU. Yeah. Is that an operating system at that point? What makes it an operating system? What makes it a desktop? What makes it... You can't enforce an ideology like this based on the way that Linux is distributed. Just get the government job and you'll be okay, not military though. Guys, I'm a Fed, of course. I already have government job. The thing is, you can't enforce something on something that is freely distributed as Linux is, because in its nature, it can be forked, it can be audited, there's lots of safeguards that are put into the system that makes it very impossible to have like a complete control. And then you have FreeBSD and non-FreeBSD and Slackware and penis cockballs. Like, it's a lunacy idea. Even if the government were to enact this at a 50 state wide, how can you enforce it? You can't enforce, like, Linux is very, very powerful. It's limitless on how it can be distributed. I mean, you literally have people that just seed Linux ISOs for the fun of it. And look at how many Linux distributions there are. There's tons. There's LFS. You can do Linux from scratch. There's Gentoo. There's Arch. There's Debian. There's Ubuntu. There's Alpine. There's OpenBSD, FreeBSD, the Unix operating systems, Dragonfly, Trinquil. There's way too many options out there for there to be any form of governance over it. It's just not possible. It's just due to the nature of Linux being so free and open source that even if Linus went to the kernel, there's probably someone already maintaining and doing a kernel right now. They foresaw the future in their schizophrenic dreams, and they're sitting in the basement making a kernel that would be very compatible. I think Serenity OS Serenity isn't based on Linux either. See how this looks. It's still running. It's still running clean. Rust mentioned. Interface with a custom Unix-like core. It flatters with by stealing beautiful ideas from various other systems. Roughly speaking, the goal is a merge between the aesthetic of late 90s productivity software and the power user accessibility of the late 2000s. Nix. The system is a system by us, for us, based on things we like. From 0 to H million a year. I think this is based on Rust, right? Is it Rust, guys, or am I tripping? I think it's still... No, it's in C. Boo! What was the Rust face? I thought there was. Serenity's in C++, actually. Even worse. True. Redux, that was it. Sorry, guys. I deceived you. I meant Redux, not Serenity. Unbased Serenity. Stability and security. Based. Base. Look at this. This is what a superior. This is what superiority looks like on a laptop. Desktop variant using less than 512 megabytes of RAM. The minimal an image occupies. This is true reduction. Unix compatibility. GNU compatibility. Rust written Windows system window manager. Yeah, look at that. MIT license, base. There's also Hexelium OS, which is the Rust as well. Oh, nice. Hex. Like I'm saying, there's too many free open source nerds where this wouldn't even get far. It wouldn't even make it. I've never heard of that one though. Hex. OS. GitHub.io. No, it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it got abandoned. Oh no, we're good. Classic Snake game. Wow, I'm interested. A minimal 32-bit operating system kernel written in base Rust, featuring command line interface, file system, text editor, Snake game, and ASIC video player. Wow, amazing. Wow. Do you guys trust this man? We need to still support. I mean, Serenity still should be supported. Oh no, JavaScript though. Wow, never mind. I don't know if I can support him. Though Ladybird mentioned. And my favorite, LNNet Foundation. A very nice, cool base sponsor. Let's see what the merch is. Is it worth buying? Is it cool to tell people you use... I think people should go out in public and say, yeah, what do you use? Redux OS, guys. Redux? Hopefully Ladybird gets much further. I'm glad the hoodie costs less than the t-shirt. Oh wait, no, never mind. Imagine wearing this in public. You'd be cool and very based and very, very loved by the women. Later, Billy. Awesome. Thank you. I love when we talk about housing crisis issues too. And good OPSEC. Good OPSEC also always goes with housing crisis issues. So remember to support your very cool open source options out there that aren't Linux based, even though I support and love Linux. Just in case. Once you become an informant, you are trapped forever. True, the price of protection, but in reality, there's no true protection aside from the cops supposedly keeping your identity secret. You end up paying for this protection in ways that you never expected. The truth is, many officers are corrupt, and they won't hesitate to use threats to get what they want from you. For instance, they might threaten you to reveal your identity to criminals, charge you with a crime you didn't commit, or force you deeper into legal activities that you've already dragged yourself into. Some officers are even running illegal businesses themselves and will use you to help eliminate their competition. You become a pawn in their game, pushed to do their dirty work. They protect their own interests. The line between law enforcement and criminal activity blurs, and you are caught in the middle, unable to escape or control. Look at this. He looks like an average cop. You ever see this haircut when you're at a festival and they're asking for weed? He's a cop. Remember, this is what your average cop looks like. Soulless, angry, shaved face. That style of haircut every single time. Physical safety and performance. Law enforcement must ensure the informant's safety by implementing witness protection measures, which is apparently movies always endure, and like shows always like bootlick this idea that like these witness protection is like this super secure thing, but from what I've read, it is not a good time. Wow, Sam Altman, agreeing with the AI, OpenAI. Thank you, Anthropic, for actually not being a pile of shit. But I can't remember who's. Smoking drugs, no, never. Drugs bad. No, I'm sick. Down with the sickness. Oh, No one's going to get that joke, but it's okay. Well, they might. Law enforcement must ensure the most safety protection measures. Operational strategies should be designated to minimize exposure and assets potentially threat regularly. Safety measures must be continuously adapted to evolving risks. Look at these federal agents protecting spooky men in mask. Informant activities often involve exposure to criminal elements, high-stress situations leading to psychological trauma, aka no big titties. Law enforcement must acknowledge these risks and provide emotional support and resources. How does it feel that you could be stabbed at any point in time for giving up your friend's name? Loser. Pretty much is like the way you handle it. I'll watch the live stream later. Epstein wanted me to sleep now. As you should. Sleep is always the most important thing to do. As you should. Always get base sleep. Thank you for stopping by. And have nice dreams. Dream of a nice, beautiful island. Any island. Pick one that anyone would want to go to. Especially criminals. There must be a balance between extracting valuable information and safeguarding informants' physical and psychological health. Maintaining effective protection measures and prioritizing mental health is the key to ensuring that the ethical use of informants, which the complete guide to law enforcement confidential informants. In reality, these rules are often ignored because cops don't really prioritize the well-being of informants. That's true. In most cases, they only focus on keeping the informant's identity anonymous, so that requires little effort. However, they don't take into account the physical and psychological threats informants will face. The police will only care about your survivability if you considered useful to them. If you're not, you're expendable. And after all, if one of their tools breaks, they'll simply replace it, right? True. There's no true anonymity when at least two cops know your identity. This is the standard international rule. On top of that, corruption is rampant in police forces around the world. And this is kind of like I would say the Benjamin Franklin quoted this. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the comments below. Thanks for the engagement. A secret's only good as if between two people if one of them's dead. You really can't trust the other person. And if two cops know your identity, then you would have to kill both of them, and that would look very sus. Or you would have to make sure that they never reveal your identity. It's just, it's like bad operational consideration. It's kind of like if you're like in like if you just watch Breaking Bad, this is what Walter did. I mean, fundamentally, this is what Walter did. He eliminated most of his competition just for the simple fact because too many people knew. I mean, if you remember the episode where he took out 9 informants because they all knew too much. And they probably would have kept their mouth shut for the right price, but, he's like, no, thank you. And then you're just a tool to them, easily disposable, ethical questioning, lots of things. Wow, this is a very, very long, detailed post. And we're going to continue in the next stream because I've been here for 2 hours, guys. Thank you, everyone, for coming down and listening to me rant and vibe code for a little bit for the last 2 hours. I appreciate everyone that stopped by, and I appreciate everyone who engaged into the comment section because YouTube then knows I'm a real person and I enjoy all their policies and nothing they do is wrong. Don't forget to comment below what your favorite currency is from your favorite country that isn't native to your country, because everyone has one. I have one, and so do you. Don't forget to walk your snail, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 500 years of bad luck for the people that don't.